To what extent is your personal success and happiness determined by the quality of company you keep? Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Essay Reloaded podcast. My name is Erwin Scofield, aka the People's Bishop, and this is the platform where I'll be raising my voice on topics of current relevance. Today's topic, entitled Good People, Bad Connections, provide a perspective on evaluating relationships on the strength of compatibility versus familiarity, and finding the strength to move on from toxic connections that pull you down. As a disclaimer, I have been sitting on a book outline and a summary draft for this title for over 15 years, and the feedback from this episode will tell me if the time is right to complete the project. Here, I will cover the topic from 4 angles as follows. 1, the gist of relationship. 2, right and wrong people. 3, when to repair a bad connection. And 4, how to move on from a bad connection. After creating the first man upon the earth and calling the creation very good, God noticed something lacking. It wasn't a flaw in the human design, but rather a missing construct for human development. The human being needed to learn how to interact with God, but there was, as of yet, no point of reference for such interaction. Let's be clear, God created man for relationship with himself, but man could not give God what man did not yet understand. So God utters the famous statement that to this day we still trip over. He said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a partner who is sufficient for the man." That's what the expression "help meet" means in the King James Version. 2 things emerge here as key points. First, God said that being alone was not a good thing for the man as a human being. And second, God said that good companionship requires compatibility and creates partnership. And just so we know that the concept of partnership transcends marriage, here are 2 additional scriptures to consider. Ecclesiastes 4 verses 9 through 10 says, "2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up." This verse highlights the benefits of partnership, emphasizing the value of having someone to support and assist us in our endeavors. The second verse would be Proverbs 27:17. "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." This verse illustrates the positive impact of partnerships, suggesting that through mutual interaction and collaboration, individuals can grow and improve together. These verses from the Bible affirm the goodness and benefits of partnerships, emphasizing the importance of having someone to help, support, and sharpen us. They remind us of the value of healthy and meaningful relationships in our lives. Relationship, then, has a vertical aspiration that can be achieved after refinement through horizontal practice. Ultimately, the desire is for us as human to have a true relationship with God. But before that can happen, we must learn about relationship and develop through relationship until we are ready to sustain on our end a faithful relationship with God. Marriage is the first and most valuable of all human relationships, followed by various family relationships, friendships, and neighbor associations. Now, with the totality of Scripture available to us, we can see a multiplicity of meaning for God's statement that man's standing alone is not optimal. Through marriage, we grow and multiply. In family, we grow, share, care for, and defend one another. In friendships, we grow, encourage, challenge, and support one another. As a neighbor, we grow and value one another, ensuring that no human being is ever left defeated, destitute, or needlessly dying. In every way, our horizontal relationships, properly regarded, will produce a level of growth that makes us ready for our best relationship with God, who is the author of our most wonderful destinies. We owe every human being a measure of human respect, but we don't owe them relationship. Relationship must be developed and sustained on the merits of good connections. Life will teach us all this very valuable truth. When we enter into relationship with the wrong people, we pay a huge price and in some cases end up socially, emotionally, and financially bankrupt. Am I lying? So it is imperative that we avoid entering or extending relationships with the wrong people. And notice that I am juxtaposing right versus wrong instead of good versus bad. While I cannot assert that there are no bad people in life, I do believe we should not embrace the concept of bad people in relationship. Now stick with me. Have you ever thought to warn someone about an ex that you felt was a horrible person, only to discover that this ex was far more loving and supportive in the new relationship? That happens more often than you think. People who seem to be your curse may prove to be someone else's blessing, and all the bad you experience may have more to do with your connection than their core character. Now, I'm not saying that it is acceptable for a person to be evil with the wrong person and good with the right person. The truth is, we all have a measure of good and evil in us. But I often emphasize that the right person will bring out all the right stuff in us, and the wrong person will bring out all the wrong stuff in us. Generally speaking, we must be compatible to bring out the best in one another. And if not, we will experience mounting frustration or even a glimpse of hell in that relationship. We're not talking about right and wrong in the sense of righteous living. Rather, we are talking about whether a person is right for you or wrong for you as a spouse, friend, or associate. Ironically, I have actually seen two very good people who were very wrong for each other. When two good people who are wrong for each other enter a relationship, they will bring out more of the wrong stuff in each other than the right stuff, leaving onlookers to see and maybe agree that one or both are bad people. And when that relationship dissolves, each party feels the need to prove, under the guise of telling their truth, that the other party was or went bad. We seem compelled to expose the other party as evil, because otherwise we will look responsible for the breakup or severed ties. But the truth is, any two persons who are not compatible will form a connection that will suppress their good and amplify their evil. Yep, the best way to see the evil you surface is to form a bad connection with someone. Done enough times, the world will be convinced that you have no capacity for good within you, when in actuality, it all came down to the person or persons you decided to connect with. Up to this point, we discussed a bad connection as if it were impossible to repair. But a good connection can also go bad through relationship mismanagement and neglect. Yes, two people who are right for each other can lose their way in the relationship, causing a short in their connection. Quick action, however, can restore the good connection and all will be fine. But how do you know if repairing a bad connection is worthwhile? Let me first give this disclaimer. Many people have completely destroyed their lives trying to fix bad relationships. There are no individual saviors in a bad relationship. So before you even consider trying to save a relationship, first validate that there was, at the start, a good connection. And don't foolishly judge a connection by moments of intimate pleasure. That is the absolute worst indicator to go by. If you have a bad connection with someone you truly love or believe in, and it was not always like that, especially from the beginning, you should invest time in counseling to identify what went wrong. And when you have determined what went wrong, you then must try to understand whether this was an unfortunate attack on your relationship or a revelation of a dormant trait that was purposely concealed in order to achieve the connection. It is quite common for one person to pursue another using a personality alias. And it is possible for a person to conform early to what the other person described as their ideal partner. In both cases, the projected persona will expire sooner rather than later because we're not capable to be in character indefinitely. Like an actor, we will often step away from the roles we portray as it requires constant focus to be someone else. Similarly, to maintaining a lie, we will have to stay conscious of the role to avoid exposing the reality. I have a saying I share with people who are searching for a potential spouse. Never try to change people, because when they get tired and frustrated, they will always come back to themselves. If you discover that your connection was based on a personality alias or someone who was trying to give you what you emphasized that you must have, that connection was bad from the start, and you could ruin yourself trying to repair it. But if you can confirm that your connection was good, that you were and are compatible with an unfortunate situation throwing you both out of sync, then seek to repair the relationship with the mutual interest of both parties. The Bible is a whole repair kit for good connections gone bad, but nothing can repair a bad connection between two incompatible persons. I hope you have understood that the human connections we've been discussing is for both scenarios of a biblical marriage and the three hoods: brotherhood, sisterhood, and neighborhood. We need to know that there are times when we must move on from these bad connections, and how we do so is of extreme importance. But first, to address the elephant in the room: Christians and divorce. It is absolutely true that God hates divorce, and there are several scriptures in place to strongly discourage it. Any true believer would be wise to carefully consider God's feelings about divorce before ever going down that path. That being said, now understand that there is something God despises more than he hates divorce. That is, people desecrating the sacred institution of marriage by entering into such deceitfully, and or turning the marital home into a living hell for the spouse and family who should find solace there. In Ezra chapter 10, we find an interesting account when Ezra led the men of Israel into a mass divorce proceeding. What is significant is that God never called for the divorce, but it was apparent that God was seriously displeased with the marriages. It seemed obvious to the men of Israel that they could not return to right relationship with God without undoing the thing that was in stark conflict with his will. From this, we learn that God may never tell someone to divorce because he hates divorce. But a marriage that does not meet his standard will never be accepted and never be blessed. In fact, it will be a curse that remains until dealt with in the pure interest of spiritual alignment rather than personal relief. In their case, the Israelite men were taking a step towards reestablishing their commitment to God's covenant and purifying the community from the influence of idolatry. It was a drastic measure meant to ensure the preservation of their faith and the restoration of their relationship with God. The point here is that God was able to move forward with his people after the men who married strange wives divorced them. God will never tell us to divorce, but God will not further condemn those who have divorced for a righteous cause, as in the aforementioned example. But moving on is not as complicated for the hood scenarios. If your brother, sister, or neighbor has become toxic, or better put, poisonous to your person, family, and destiny, and they do not respond to well-meaning confrontation or loving accountability, you need to move on from that relationship or association. But remember these 3 rules. First, embrace forgiveness and let go of hate in your heart. It is important to pray for those you no longer associate with and genuinely wish them well in their endeavors. Second, refrain from poisoning others' perception of someone from whom you've disconnected. While they may not have been a good connection for you, they might be a very good connection for someone else. This does not mean you have to conceal your experience if someone has inquired for the purpose of their self-protection. But avoid fabricating stories of God sending you on a divine mission to expose them. And third, avoid revisiting past connections unless there is a genuine possibility for a new and improved relationship. While it is possible to reconnect with someone you had a negative experience with, consider if it aligns with your current growth and progress. If it hinders your forward momentum or requires you to compromise, it may not be worth investing in. In conclusion, there is a lot at stake when we make and sustain bad connections, even with good people. Not every bad connection is because one or both persons were bad people. Everyone who is good might not be good for you. And the one who is a right connection for you may still require some personal development. But if you can remember the importance of agreement, compatibility, commitment, and an openness to accountability, you may avoid bad relationship bankruptcies that often emerge from good people having bad connections.
Thank you for watching Essay Reloaded with Erwin Scofield. Tune in next week for another insightful message that will challenge and inspire you. If you have not done so, please follow us on Facebook or subscribe to this podcast on YouTube. This way you will help us increase exposure for this valuable resource, and you will receive notifications prior to the release of each weekly installment. If you enjoy Bishop Scofield's Nuggets of Wisdom, you can purchase a copy of his new book release, Divine Dosages, Encouragement for Enduring Faith. The book is available for purchase at Amazon.com, or you can connect with him for an autographed copy. These details are attached with this video. Thanks for watching, and may God bless you.